The day the alien ships appeared in Earth's sky started like any other. People went to work, children played in parks, and the news reported the usual mix of politics and celebrity gossip. Then everything changed. The ships came without warning. Massive black vessels that blocked out the sun as they positioned themselves over major cities around the world. They were unlike anything humans had ever built, smooth, angular, and impossibly large. For 6 hours, they simply hovered there, silent and watching. Commander John Miller was eating lunch in the cafeteria of the International Space Defense Coalition headquarters when the first reports came in. At first, he thought it was a joke or a training exercise. But when the emergency alarms blared throughout the building, he knew this was real. "Commander, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Amy Walsh, her face pale as she rushed into the room. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." John followed her to the command center where dozens of officers stared at the main screen. It was a creature that looked almost human, but wrong in subtle ways. Its skin was bluish-gray, its eyes too large and completely black. When it spoke, its mouth moved in ways that didn't match the words. "People of Earth," the alien said in perfect English. "We are the Keldari hegemony. Your planet has been selected for resource extraction and potential species preservation. Your technological level and societal development have been assessed. You have 72 hours to surrender control of your governments and natural resources. Resistance is futile and will result in selective population reduction. This is not negotiable." The message repeated in different languages: Chinese, Russian, Arabic, Spanish, Hindi. They knew them all. "Are we recording this?" John asked. "Yes, sir," Amy replied. "And it's broadcasting worldwide. Every TV, radio, phone, and computer is showing the same message." John studied the creature, on screen. Something about its confidence bothered him. "They think they know us," he muttered. Across the world, panic erupted. Stock markets crashed within minutes. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Military forces went on high alert, but most governments urged calm until more was known. In Nevada, Dr. Lisa Powell was called urgently to a secure facility operated by the Global Science Consortium. As one of the world's leading experts in language and cultural analysis, she was immediately put to work studying additional transmissions that military satellites had intercepted. "They're talking to each other," she told her team as they gathered around her workstation. "And they don't think much of us." Lisa had decoded fragments of communication between the alien ships. The Keldari spoke about humans like scientists, discussed lab rats, with clinical detachment and mild curiosity. "According to their communications, they've studied Earth for decades," she explained. "They think we're predictable. They expect us to fight among ourselves instead of uniting." One message in particular caught her attention. "Humans show tribal tendencies limited to geographical and ideological boundaries. Unified resistance probability, less than 12%. Lisa smiled grimly. They're in for a surprise. At the United Nations, emergency sessions brought together leaders who normally wouldn't speak to each other. Old enemies sat side by side as they faced a threat greater than any human conflict. "We need time," said the Secretary General. "We need to appear willing to negotiate while we prepare our defenses." The Chinese premier nodded. "For the first time in history, all humanity faces the same enemy. We must act as one species." The Russian president, usually combative, simply said, "Today we are all Earthlings." The response they drafted was careful, expressing surprise at the Keldari arrival, requesting clarification about their intentions, and suggesting diplomatic talks. Its true purpose was to buy time. Meanwhile, military leaders from around the world established secure communications. NASA, Roscosmos, the European Space Agency, and China's space program shared all their data on the alien ships. "Their technology is advanced, but not magical," reported General Dan Harris during the first global defense meeting. "We've detected energy signatures, radiation patterns, and what appear to be weapon systems. They can be studied, and what can be studied can be fought." John Miller was put in charge of coordinating the space-based response. His first act was to secretly activate the orbital defense platforms that officially didn't exist. His second was to call Dr. Lisa Powell. "Tell me something useful, Lisa," he said when she answered. "They think we're primitive and divided," she replied. "And they've made a critical error in their analysis. They believe our national boundaries reflect strictly divided loyalties. They don't understand that humans can hold multiple identities at once, that a Russian scientist might collaborate with an American soldier when faced with extinction. That's philosophical. I need tactical advantages. Here's tactical. They're overconfident. Their communications show minimal encryption because they don't think we can understand their language, let alone decode their transmissions. They're discussing battle plans in the open." John straightened in his chair. "That's extremely useful." Across Earth, preparations began in secret. Military units moved under cover of darkness. Civilian engineers were quietly recruited to adapt existing technologies for new purposes. Underground facilities built during the Cold War and mostly forgotten were rapidly updated and stocked. In his garage in Nebraska, Frank Bell, a former military communications specialist, tinkered with his ham radio. He had picked up strange signals that didn't match the official alien broadcast. Using skills from his service days, he began to analyze the patterns. What he found would later prove crucial. In space, the International Space Station crew observed the alien ships from a unique vantage point. They transmitted detailed images and readings back to Earth using coded messages disguised as routine maintenance communications. As the 72-hour deadline approached, the Keldari commander, Zexkaloth, watched Earth with growing impatience. The Mayim humans were responding exactly as predicted. Their leaders asked for meetings and clarification, seemingly stalling for time. Some human military forces made shows of strength, which the Keldari found amusing given the vast technological gap between them. "They posture like hatchlings," Zexkaloth told his officers. "Prepare the demonstration strike. Target the uninhabited island as planned. Let them see what awaits resistance." The alien ship over the Pacific Ocean charged its main weapon. Underway, Earth satellites detected the energy buildup. John Miller received the warning and immediately called the president. "They're about to attack, sir. Most likely a demonstration to scare us into submission." "Where?" the president asked. "Satellite data suggests a small island in the Pacific. Uninhabited." The president was silent for a moment. "They're showing restraint. That means they want something from us besides just our destruction." "Yes, sir. Our resources, according to their message." "Then we still have a chance. Continue with the plan." When the Keldari weapon fired, it vaporized the entire island in seconds. The blast was visible from hundreds of miles away. The message was clear: surrender or face annihilation. What the Keldari didn't realize was that every aspect of the demonstration attack was being analyzed by thousands of scientists worldwide. The energy signature, the delivery method, the after effects, all provided valuable data. In her lab, Lisa Powell watched the footage again and again. "They want us afraid," she said to no one in particular, "but they just handed us the keys to understanding their weapons." The clock continued to count down toward humanity's deadline. But while the Keldari expected panic and submission, the people of Earth were quietly preparing for a fight that would determine the future of their species. The Keldari received Earth's official response with smug satisfaction. The human governments requested more time to prepare their surrender terms, exactly as predicted. "Pathetic creatures," said Zexkaloth as he watched the human representatives on screen. "They seek to delay the inevitable." His second-in-command, however, seemed less certain. "The energy readings from their military bases don't match our intelligence reports. There's more activity than expected." Zexkaloth dismissed the concern. "They're posturing. Their weapons cannot harm our ships." On Earth, a very different conversation was happening. In a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Major Kevin Young stood before a group of soldiers from 24 nations. Each was a specialist in their field, the best Earth had to offer. "You were all chosen because you can think outside normal, military doctrine," Kevin told them. We're facing technology centuries beyond our own. Conventional tactics won't work here. A soldier raised her hand. Sir, how do we fight an enemy we can't even reach? Their ships are beyond our missile range. That's why we have her, Kevin said, gesturing to a woman who had just entered the room. Dr. Susan Garcia looked more like a college professor than a weapons specialist. She pushed her glasses up and activated a holographic display. The alien. Ships use a form of energy shield that blocks physical objects, she explained. But when they fired on that island, our sensors detected fluctuations in their shield during the weapon charging sequence. There's a 3-second window when the shield must realign to allow their energy weapon to fire. She showed them images of the attack, slowed down to reveal the momentary vulnerability. 3 seconds isn't much, someone said. It's enough, Susan replied. If we can coordinate our attacks to hit precisely when they're firing, we have a chance to penetrate their defenses. Kevin nodded. Our job is to get Dr. Garcia's special payloads delivered exactly when those shields flicker. We'll only get one chance. While the military prepared, civilians around the world were fighting their own battle. The initial panic had given way to a quiet, determined resistance. In Nebraska, Frank Bell had made a breakthrough. His garage now looked like a mad scientist's lab filled with modified radio equipment. After 3 days without sleep, he'd confirmed his theory. The alien communications had a weakness. It's the frequency pattern, he explained to his wife. Their signals bounce off our atmosphere in a predictable way. If we broadcast on exactly the right counter frequency, we can jam their communications. His discovery quickly made its way through amateur radio networks to military intelligence. Within hours, equipment around the world was being modified to exploit this weakness. In Nevada, Lisa Powell worked with a team of linguists and code breakers to translate more Keldari communications. The picture that emerged made her both angry and hopeful. They have a caste system, she reported to John Miller over a secure line. The warrior caste currently in control considers Earth a simple conquest. But there are indications of disagreement among their science caste about whether humans are being underestimated. Can we exploit that? John asked. Maybe. More importantly, I found references to their biology. They evolved on a world with much higher radiation levels than Earth. Our atmosphere actually weakens them if they're exposed to it without protection. This information was immediately passed to Dr. Paul Wright, a microbiologist who had been studying samples collected from near the alien ships. Microscopic particles had drifted down from the vessels, dead skin cells, waste particles, microscopic bits of material. Under his microscope, they revealed secrets about Keldari physiology. As the 72-hour deadline approached its end, the aliens prepared for Earth's surrender. Instead, they received a message that confused them. People of the Keldari hegemony, said the United Nations Secretary General, we have considered your offer and find it unacceptable. Earth is not yours to take. We will defend our home. The broadcast ended. The Keldari were momentarily stunned by this unexpected defiance. Begin the attack, Sexakaloth ordered after recovering from his surprise. Target their military installations first. The Keldari ships positioned over major military bases powered up their weapons. But as they did, something strange happened. Their communications suddenly filled with static. Commands between ships became garbled. Around the world, modified transmitters broadcast on the frequencies Frank Bell had identified. The Keldari communication network descended into chaos. At the same moment, Earth launched its counterattack. Fighter jets carrying specially designed missiles took off from hidden bases. They weren't trying to destroy the alien ships, just deliver Dr. Garcia's packages at exactly the right moment. When the alien weapons reached full charge, their shields flickered exactly as predicted. The missiles slipped through the momentary gaps. Most were destroyed by secondary defenses, but enough reached their targets. These weren't conventional explosives. Each missile contained millions of microscopic robots designed to infiltrate the alien ship's systems. Once inside, they would replicate and spread, causing subtle malfunctions that would be difficult to trace. The first sign that something was wrong came when a Keldari ship over Beijing fired its weapon. and missed its target completely. Instead of destroying a military base, the beam hit empty farmland. Similar malfunctions occurred worldwide. The Keldari weapons fired, but targeting systems failed in strange ways. The aliens were confused and increasingly angry. "Find the source of the interference," Zexkaloth demanded. But the problems were just beginning. On space stations and in secret launch facilities, humans deployed their own spacecraft. These weren't the public vessels known to the world, but black projects that had been developed in secret for decades. John Miller commanded this shadow fleet from a control center hidden beneath the ocean. All ships commence Operation Blindside. Attack patterns as rehearsed. The human vessels, though technologically inferior to the alien ships, had the advantage of surprise. They appeared from hidden bases on Earth, the Moon, and even Mars, where a small military outpost had been disguised as a research station. The space battle that followed was brief, but intense. Human ships took heavy losses, but they achieved their primary objective, forcing the Keldari to split their attention between threats from the ground and from space. On the alien flagship, Zexkaloth faced the first real challenge of his career. How is this happening? They shouldn't have space combat capability. Meanwhile, on the ground, another part of the plan unfolded. Special forces teams led by Kevin Young's international unit deployed near alien landing sites, where the Keldari had sent ground forces to secure strategic locations. These alien soldiers, expecting minimal resistance, instead found themselves facing well-prepared human defenders who knew the terrain perfectly. The Keldari body armor was impressive, but the aliens themselves struggled in Earth's atmosphere, just as Lisa Powell had discovered. As the first day of battle ended, the Keldari had suffered unexpected losses. Their easy conquest had turned into a real fight. And unknown to them, Dr. Paul Wright was putting the finishing touches on a biological agent specifically designed to target Keldari physiology. The humans were far from winning, but they had achieved something the aliens thought impossible. They had survived the first attack, and more importantly, they had shown that Earth would not fall easily. The real war was just beginning. 2 weeks into the war, Earth was burning. Major cities lay in ruins as the Keldari retaliated with increasingly desperate attacks. But humans were adapting faster than the aliens could have imagined possible. In an underground facility beneath what used to be Seattle, Carol Johnson worked with a team of computer experts. Before the invasion, she had designed video games. Now she was reprogramming military drones to target alien weak points. "Their ships follow patterns," she explained to the soldiers gathered around her workstation. "Just like AI enemies in games. Once you learn the pattern, you can predict where they'll be before they get there." Carol had noticed something no military analyst had caught. The alien ships moved according to mathematical rules that, while complex, could be predicted. Her pattern recognition algorithms, originally designed for creating realistic game opponents, now guided human weapons with uncanny accuracy. "We don't need to match their technology," she said. "We just need to know where to hit them and when." Across the country, Frank Bell had turned his garage invention into something much more powerful. Working with military engineers, he had developed devices that could not only jam Keldari communications, but also insert false information. "They're hearing what we want them to hear," Frank said with grim satisfaction as he monitored the frequencies. "Their ships over the Atlantic think our forces are in Europe when they're actually in Africa." This electronic warfare proved incredibly effective. The Keldari, used to perfect communication and coordination, found themselves increasingly confused and isolated. In orbit, the situation was equally chaotic. Ryan Cooper, a former astronaut who now commanded a squadron of modified space shuttles, led daring raids against the alien fleet. His vessels were outdated compared to the Keldari ships, but they were piloted by humans who knew every trick and were willing to take risks no computer would calculate as acceptable. "Target their sensor arrays," Ryan instructed his pilots as they approached a Keldari cruiser. "They can't hit what they can't see." The shuttles darted around the massive alien vessel, firing precision weapons at the external sensors. It was like a swarm of bees attacking a bear, individually harmless but devastating in their coordinated assault. On the Keldari flagship, Zex Kaloth was furious. What should have been a simple conquest had turned into a nightmare. He had already lost 3 ships to these primitives. Their technology is inferior, he raged to his officers. How are they doing this? His science officer offered an explanation. They're not fighting as separate nations as our intelligence indicated. They're sharing information, adapting their tactics, and cooperating in ways our models didn't predict. Impossible. Their history shows constant conflict between their tribes. Yes, but it appears that facing extinction has united them, and they're learning from each engagement. Their attacks grow more precise each day. This was true. Dr. Susan Garcia had refined her understanding of the alien shield technology with each battle. The 3-second vulnerability window had been extended to 5 seconds through carefully timed electromagnetic pulses. It wasn't much, but it was enough to deliver increasingly effective payloads. The most promising development came from Dr. Paul Wright's laboratory. Using samples of Keldari biology, he had created a compound that was harmless to humans but wreaked havoc on alien physiology. It's not lethal, he explained to military leaders, but it will incapacitate them for hours. Severe disorientation, muscle weakness, inability to concentrate. Like the worst flu you've ever had, added a general. Exactly. And it spreads through air, water, and direct contact. The decision to use this biological agent wasn't made lightly, but when the Keldari began systematically destroying civilian shelters, the order was given. Operation Typhoid began. The compound was released near known Keldari ground forces. The effects were immediate. Alien soldiers collapsed in confusion, unable to function. Their protective suits, designed to shield them from Earth's lower radiation levels, did nothing against the targeted biological agent that could penetrate the tiniest openings. On Mars, the small human colony that the Keldari had dismissed as irrelevant suddenly revealed its importance. Director Olivia Martinez had been quietly preparing her people and their equipment since the invasion began. We have an advantage they didn't consider, she told the colonists. We know how to survive in hostile environments. We've been doing it since we got here. The Mars colony's mining equipment, designed to dig through the red planet's surface, was quickly converted to military use. Drilling vehicles became tanks. Atmosphere processors became chemical weapon factories. Survey drones became reconnaissance units. When the small Keldari force sent to secure Mars arrived, they found not the easy target they expected, but a prepared and determined resistance that knew the environment far better than they did. Olivia sent a tight beam transmission to Earth. Mars stands with you. The aliens just lost their backdoor approach. This unexpected resistance from Mars forced the Keldari to divert resources they couldn't afford to lose. Their carefully planned invasion was falling apart on multiple fronts. John Miller, coordinating Earth Space Defenses, received Olivia's message with a rare smile. Tell Director Martinez her timing couldn't be better. We're about to launch Operation Thunderstrike. This was the most ambitious counterattack yet. A simultaneous strike on every Keldari ship in the solar system. It required perfect coordination between ground forces, space assets, electronic warfare units, and even civilian resources. The plan hinged on Carol Johnson's prediction algorithms, which had identified a moment when all Keldari vessels would be vulnerable due to their regular shield maintenance cycle. We'll only have 30 seconds, John told his commanders. Every ship must fire at exactly the right moment. As the operation began, Lisa Powell made another breakthrough in her analysis of Keldari communications. She had been studying their increasingly frantic messages and noticed a change in tone. They're afraid, she told John during a brief communication window. Not just annoyed or frustrated, they're genuinely afraid of us now. They keep referring to something called the prophecy when discussing our resistance. What prophecy? I'm not sure yet. But whatever it is, it's making their leaders very nervous about our ability to adapt so quickly. This psychological insight proved as valuable as any weapon. Human forces began specifically targeting Keldari command structures, increasing the aliens' fear and confusion. Operation Thunderstrike wasn't a complete success. Humanity didn't have enough firepower for that, but it dealt a serious blow to the Keldari fleet. 5 more of their ships were destroyed or disabled, and the rest suffered significant damage. For the first time since the invasion began, humans allowed themselves to feel a glimmer of hope. They were far from winning the war, but they were proving something crucial. Earth would not fall easily, and anyone who underestimated human ingenuity, adaptability, and determination would pay a heavy price. As the 3rd week of fighting began, the Keldari were forced to acknowledge a painful truth. They were no longer the hunters. They were in a real war with an enemy who refused to accept defeat. 1 month into the war, Earth looked very different. Cities had moved underground. The surface was too dangerous with constant Keldari attacks. Subway systems, mines, and natural cave networks became new homes for millions of people. They adapted, quickly, creating communities where none had existed before. In what used to be Chicago, people lived in a vast network of connected basements and underground parking structures. They grew food under special lights and created simple but effective air filtration systems. Children attended school in repurposed storage rooms. Life continued despite the war raging above. Dr. Paul Wright worked in a laboratory deep beneath the ruins of the city. His biological agent against the Keldari had been more effective than anyone expected. Now he was improving it further. The first version attacked their nervous system, he explained to a group of scientists. This new version targets their ability to absorb nutrients. It won't kill them, but they'll be too weak to fight effectively. A young scientist raised her hand. Isn't this crossing a line ethically? Paul looked tired but determined. They've destroyed our cities and killed millions. We're fighting for survival. But notice we're not trying to exterminate them. Just stop them from killing us. The ethical debate was important but brief. When reports arrived of Keldari forces using poison gas on civilian shelters in Europe, the decision was made. The new agent was approved for deployment. Meanwhile, Commander John Miller had established a mobile command center on a submarine that constantly moved through Earth's oceans. The Keldari couldn't track it underwater, making it the perfect place to coordinate global resistance. The tide is turning, John told his officers during a strategy meeting. Their ground forces are being pushed back on every continent. Their ships are increasingly damaged and unable to repair quickly enough. His second-in-command looked skeptical. But they still control orbit. They can bomb us whenever they want. Not as effectively as before, John replied. Frank Bell's team has found a way to create false sensor readings. Half the time they're bombing empty fields while thinking they're hitting our bases. Frank had indeed made another breakthrough. By studying salvaged pieces of Keldari technology, he and his team discovered how their targeting systems worked. They now projected false heat signatures and radio signals that fooled alien sensors. In space, the situation was also improving for humanity. Ryan Cooper's shuttle fleet had grown as more pilots were trained and more vehicles modified for combat. They couldn't defeat the alien ships directly, but they conducted hit-and-run attacks that constantly drained Keldari resources. We're the mosquitoes at their picnic, Ryan told his pilots before a mission. We might be small, but we're going to make them miserable. On Mars, Director Olivia Martinez had done the impossible. Her colonists had actually captured a small Keldari scout ship intact. The technology they salvaged from it was immediately shared with Earth. The ship's computer contains their complete language database, Olivia reported via secure channel, and technical manuals for most of their systems. This was the breakthrough Dr. Lisa Powell had been waiting for. With the language database, she could finally understand the references to the prophecy that had been worrying the Keldari commanders. It's from their ancient religious texts, she told John when she made the discovery. There's a prediction about a third planet species that would one day threaten the hegemony. That's why they attacked us. Not just for resources, but because they fear what we might become. The prophecy described humans with uncanny accuracy. The divided ones who unite in the face of extinction. The adaptable ones who turn weakness to strength. The third planet dwellers who, if allowed to reach the stars on their own terms, will bring down the eternal hegemony. John understood the implications immediately. They're not just fighting for conquest. They're fighting out of fear. Exactly. And now they're seeing the prophecy come true before their eyes. We were supposed to surrender or be destroyed. Instead, we're actually pushing them back. This psychological insight proved invaluable as humans began including messages about the prophecy in their communications. Messages they knew the Keldari would intercept. The alien forces became increasingly paranoid and prone to mistakes. On the Keldari flagship, Zexkaloth faced growing dissent among his officers. Their easy conquest had turned into a grinding war of attrition that they were slowly losing. The humans know about the prophecy, his communications officer reported with alarm. They're using our own beliefs against us. Impossible, Zexkaloth snapped. They cannot understand our sacred texts. Listen for yourself. The officer played an intercepted human transmission. To the Keldari forces, the prophecy is fulfilling itself. The more you fight us, the stronger we become. The third planet species will not be conquered. For the first time since the invasion began, true fear showed in Zexkaloth's eyes. Back on Earth, Carol Johnson had expanded her pattern recognition work beyond predicting alien ship movements. She now analyzed Keldari battle tactics and found they relied heavily on pre-programmed responses, rather than true adaptation. They have amazing technology but rigid thinking, she explained to military leaders. Once they choose a strategy, they stick with it even when it stops working. We're the opposite. We have weaker technology, but we change tactics constantly. This insight led to Operation Chameleon, a constantly shifting defense strategy that never presented the same pattern. Twice. The Keldari, unable to predict human movements, wasted enormous resources trying to target forces that had already relocated. In his underwater command center, John Miller received increasingly positive reports from around the world. Ground forces were reclaiming territory. Dr. Wright's biological agents had incapacitated thousands of alien soldiers. Frank Bell's deception technologies were working better than expected. We need to take the next step, John told his officers. It's time to target their command structure directly. The plan they developed was audacious, a direct assault on the Keldari flagship. Not to destroy it, but to capture it. If successful, it would give humanity access to the aliens' most advanced technology and possibly force them to negotiate. Major Kevin Young and his Special Forces team would lead the mission. They had spent weeks training in zero-gravity combat and studying Keldari ship layouts from the vessel captured on Mars. This is a one-way trip for most of us, Kevin told his volunteers, bluntly. But if we succeed, we might end this war. Every person on the team had lost someone to the invasion. They all nodded in grim understanding. As preparations for the mission continued, an unexpected message arrived from Mars. Director Olivia Martinez's team had made another discovery while studying the captured ship. The Keldari have been to Earth before, she reported. Long ago, they've been monitoring us for centuries, deliberately interfering with our development when they thought we were advancing too quickly. This revelation stunned Earth's leaders. The aliens hadn't just invaded, they had been manipulating human history from the shadows, all because of their fear of what humanity might become. As the fourth month of war began, humans weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting against centuries of alien interference, and they were winning. The mission to capture the Keldari flagship began in the early hours of a cloudy morning. Major Kevin Young and his team of 30 Special Forces soldiers boarded a modified shuttle piloted by Ryan Cooper. The plan was to approach under cover of a larger battle that would distract the aliens' attention. Remember, we need to take the command center intact, Kevin told his team as they prepared their gear. Set weapons to stun settings where possible. Each soldier carried equipment, adapted from both human and salvaged alien technology. Their body armor was reinforced with Keldari materials. Their weapons combined Earth firearms with alien power sources. As they approached the massive flagship, Ryan navigated through debris from previous battles. The vastness of space around them was filled with the remains of both human and alien. Ships, 30 seconds to contact, Ryan announced. Good luck down there. The shuttle docked with the Keldari vessel using technology from the captured scout ship. Alarms blared immediately, but the team was prepared. They moved through the alien corridors with practiced precision, facing resistance that grew stronger as they approached the command center. Meanwhile, on Earth, John Miller watched the operation unfold through patchy video feeds from the team's helmet cameras. "They're making progress," he told Lisa Powell, who stood beside him. "But the aliens are responding faster than we expected." "They know how important this ship is," she replied. "They'll defend it to the last." On the Keldari flagship, Zexkaloth received warnings of the human invaders with growing panic. "How did they get past our outer defenses?" he demanded. "Their shuttle was using our own identification codes," an officer replied. "From the scout ship we lost on Mars." The alien commander realized with horror that humans had accomplished in months what other species had failed to do in decades of conflict with the hegemony. They had adapted Keldari technology to use against its creators. "Seal the command center. Deploy all internal defenses." Major Kevin Young and his team faced increasing resistance as they fought their way toward their target. 8 soldiers were already down, but the rest pressed forward. They had come too far to turn back. "We're approaching the command center," Kevin reported back to Earth. "Heavy resistance. We'll need to use the EMP device earlier than planned." This was a risk. The electromagnetic pulse might disable some of their own equipment. But they had no choice. Kevin activated the device they had brought specifically to disable Keldari electronic systems. The pulse spread through the ship's corridors. Alien weapons failed, security doors froze. For precious moments, the humans had the advantage, and they used it well. They breached the command center to find Zexkaloth and his officers desperately trying to restore their systems. The Keldari commander reached for an emergency weapon, but Kevin was faster. His stun round hit the alien directly, dropping him unconscious. "Command center secured," Kevin reported. "We have their leader." Back on Earth, a cheer went up in the underwater command center, but John Miller remained cautious. "The hard part is just beginning," he said. "Now they need to download the ship's database and get out alive." While half of Kevin's team secured the alien prisoners, the others connected devices to the ship's computers. Everything they learned would be transmitted back to Earth immediately in case they didn't make it out. "Sir, you need to see this," called one of the soldiers, pointing to a display that had activated when they connected their equipment. Kevin looked at what appeared to be a star map with thousands of worlds marked. "What am I looking at?" "It's the hegemony's empire. And look, Earth is marked as quarantine zone with a warning about a dangerous species." They had found confirmation of what Lisa Powell had discovered. The Keldari had been watching Earth for centuries, keeping humans isolated from the wider galactic community out of fear of what they might become. As the team downloaded the ship's database, they found something else. Communications from the Keldari homeworld expressing concern about Zexkaloth's invasion plan. Not all of them wanted this war, Kevin realized. Their leadership is divided about us. This information was potentially more valuable than any technology they could capture. It meant there might be a path to peace. The team worked quickly, but time was running out. Other Keldari ships had noticed something was wrong with their flagship and were moving to investigate. 5 minutes until we have company, Ryan warned from the shuttle. Wrap it up in there. Kevin made a difficult decision. Change of plans. We're taking Zexkaloth with us, and I need 2 volunteers to stay behind to ensure the data transfer completes. 2 soldiers immediately stepped forward. They knew it was likely a suicide mission, but the information they were sending could change the course of the war. The team retreated to the shuttle with their unconscious prisoner. As they pulled away from the flagship, they watched through the viewport as Keldari reinforcements arrived. The 2 soldiers left behind would buy them the time they needed to escape. The return journey to Earth was tense but successful. The capture of the alien commander was a turning point in the war. Under careful guard and treatment, Zexkaloth was forced to confront something he had never expected: humans who treated their prisoner with firm but ethical care. "Why don't you torture me for information?" he asked Dr. Lisa Powell during an interrogation session. "Because that's not who we are," she replied simply. "We want to understand you, not destroy you." This response seemed to confuse the alien more than any threat could have. It contradicted everything he had been taught about these supposedly primitive and violent beings. While Lisa worked to communicate with their prisoner, the data stolen from the flagship was studied by scientists worldwide. It contained information that changed everything humans knew about their place in the galaxy. There are dozens of other species out there, John Miller explained to world leaders in an emergency session. Some friendly, some hostile. The Keldari have been keeping them all away from us. Dr. Paul Wright made another important discovery through his work with alien biology. The Keldari are dying as a species. Their birth rates have been declining for centuries. That's why they need resources from planets like ours. They're desperate to save themselves. This knowledge led to a bold proposal. Instead of continuing the war until one side was destroyed, humanity would offer an alternative: cooperation. Earth scientists had found potential solutions to the Keldari biological crisis in their efforts to understand alien physiology. 6 months after the invasion began, human leaders sent a message to the Keldari homeworld, bypassing the remaining invasion forces. The message contained 2 things: proof that Zex Kaloth had violated hegemony protocols by attacking a species that might have helped them, and a proposed treatment for their declining birth rates. The response came 3 weeks later. The Keldari High Council ordered their forces to cease all attacks on Earth. Representatives would come to negotiate terms of withdrawal. The war had devastated much of Earth, but humans had proven something remarkable. When united against a common threat, they were capable of achievements no one, not even themselves, had thought possible. As the peace talks began, Lisa Powell found herself sitting across from the Keldari High Council's chief negotiator. She opened the session with words that would become famous across 2 worlds. "Dear aliens, you truly underestimated humans. We don't seek revenge for what happened here. We seek understanding. You came as conquerors. We offer to part as potential allies. The choice is yours." The Keldari negotiator looked at the human delegation with new respect. The prophecy had indeed come true, but perhaps not in the way they had feared. The third planet species had proven itself not just through strength of arms, but through ingenuity, adaptability, and ultimately, wisdom. The future would not be easy. Trust would take generations to build. But for the first time, humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors or the conquered, but as equals to be reckoned with.